Welcome back. So this is going to be my final. This is going to be my final early access videos, which is going to be the upcoming Anomaly Arbitration dissonance. Yep. It is going to be our weekly boss, the Epoch Shadows. I think you guys seen it before, Mr. Sunday himself. Right? So let's just jump straight in. So before I show you guys like the gameplay footage, just to briefly touch on the Night 1, 2, and 3 as well as the actual boss itself. For the Night 1, the enemies that you're going to find in Night 1 is pretty much the exact same as we are going to be facing for this current Memory of Chaos 12 first half against Sam as of this time recording anyways. So for general purposes, I would say that this particular fight, any crit DPS can work pretty well here, especially because if you can keep yourself alive with the sustain, then you shouldn't face that big of an issue. That being said, if you wanted to use like one best in slot team, then the Remembrance Flagship with the HP consumption, which is 2% of their max HP, is gonna receive the highest amount of buffs over here. But I would say this is probably one of the more flexible stages compared to the other Night 2 as well as Night 3. And then for Night 3 over here, this is pretty much gonna be our OG true sting. I think we've seen him a couple of times, maybe in the past couple of months. We sort of a lot of fights with like Dahlia back in those days, and this is pretty much gonna be a little bit more annoying because we do have the similar crit damage debuff, which is gonna be similar to, I believe, our very first Anomaly Arbitration against Memory Zone meme, the DOT shield boss. But anyways, the bug spawn does give you quite a lot of vulnerability as per the original mechanics for the true sting. So if you're gonna be using Super Break, you want to use DOT, or if you simply want to use the Archer to deal with the mobs, or like Dahlia, I think these are gonna be doing very well against Night 2 over here. And then finally for Night 3, this is gonna be also our current memory of, or rather the previous Memory of Chaos 12 Judge of Oblivion. So it is the exact same mechanic as that. The first half is going to change a little bit. So this is the other Automatron instead of the female Automatron. A little bit more manageable because you don't really have as much crowd control, but the mechanic is going to be taunting, which is going to be similar to the previous Anomaly Arbitration Night 1. Yes, Night 1, right? So if you're going to be hitting attack 6 times and they're going to take action, and the other one is going to be when they actually take action, they are going to cause 5 to 10% action value delay to the attack target. I would say, generally speaking, Finon as well as DHPD is going to be pretty good here because especially for DHPD, the shield mechanic is going to do very, very well against Judge of Oblivion because once again, it is the exact same mob over here. We have also seen previously my Y-Face Yao. We did a very, very nice zero cycle using our DHPD, so you can try again and go for it. But I would say the action value delay as well as taunting might be a little bit more annoying because follow-up that team comps do hit very, very frequently. Aside from that, I think My Day is also generally pretty good, but you're not going to be making use of the shield, so you can go ahead and try it out for yourselves. And that is pretty much going to be for our Night 1, 2, as well as 3 with regards to the mechanic over here. Comparing this with, like, let's just say the current Nights as well as the previous Nights, I would say the Night 1 is still one of the more restrictive ones. Just know that I think the most annoying one is probably going to be Night 2 because, yep, we are going to be getting the classic duo Noontide as well as Moonlit Pegasus, which is our very, very first King in Check boss back then. So I would say these two are probably going to be a little bit more annoying, but between all these 3 Nights, I think it's going to be a little bit more manageable compared to our very, very first Anomaly Arbitration. It's somewhat similar to the difficulty that we're going to be seeing in our current Anomaly Arbitration against Aguilars. So that's going to be our quick thoughts on the Night 1, 2, and 3. And now before we jump into the gameplay, then final thoughts is going to be on Mr. Sunday, because in case you guys haven't been playing HSR for a while, we actually have this boss fight, I think, once, if not twice, in Epoch Shadows, and we definitely can see him pretty much every single day if you're going to be farming for the Echoes of War. And it is a very similar mechanic with a little bit more additional traits. You can see from Resilient Armor, D-Power, as well as Unending Refinement. Other than that, the fight itself is generally the same. It's going to be 3 phases. The final phase is going to be the most annoying one, but I'll get into that a little bit later. But for this particular boss, it is going to be very, 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 very beneficial for Spirit to, nobody's surprised because this is going to be shooting for, especially on the Dahlia's release. So for Resilient Armor, as long as you break their stacks, you are going to be able to increase, or rather take away this damage reduction stacks. But the thing is, it will always reset at the start of each phase. So phase 1 and phase 2 is a little bit more manageable because he always summons his little mobs, the 4 at the side. But at the final phase on phase 3, there are no more summons and you have to only aim this guy by itself, meaning that you cannot make use of all the other mobs to deal with the toughness bar. So until you can eventually break at least all of the stacks off, you are going to be definitely facing quite a lot of damage reduction. So that's going to be the first debuff taken off. For the second debuff, D-Power, very, very annoying for energy regeneration force, but I'll talk about it a little bit more later, which is for the very, very first wave, it will reduce your energy by 50%. So it is straight up just going to be cancelling all of your energy regeneration at the start of wave, as you would expect from any of your endgame content you've been playing for the past 2 years. So everyone that has energy will go into it with 0 energy unless they do not use energy as their mechanic, or if they have a technique that actually gives them free energy. For example, in this case, Firefly, right? That's why Firefly is not going to be affected. You can still get an ultimate as fast as humanly possible. And afterwards, we have a decrease in energy regeneration by 50% outside of their turn for 2 turns. So keep in mind, it is outside of their turn and lasts for 2 turns. So if your unit can actually move fast enough, this is not going to be that big of a deal. So units like Hyacinth probably can still do relatively well, but it is definitely going to be a little bit more annoying, I would say, for this depowered compared to like both Aglaia as well as Ligas, where after the enemies hit you and they drain your energy, I think this is a way more manageable compared to those 2 buffs, because it only lasts for a very short time and essentially at the start of battle. And the most amount of difficulties you're going to be facing is relatively going to be phase 3, where by then the energy debuff will have completely worn off, and the phase 1 and phase 2 is going to be very nice, because we do have the Astral Express with Pom Pom, as well as the fact that the mobs can give you a lot of free damage on the toughness part, right? So that's going to be our depower. And lastly, for Unending Refinement, this is pretty much going to be 20% damage reduction as well as 40% crit damage reduction after they take damage. So they are cleared when the enemy's turn begins or when they enter into a weakness broken state. So this is pretty much signifying that if your team is going to be hitting very frequently and they are very fast before Sunny takes a turn, then this is going to stack all the way up to a 20% damage reduction and 40% crit damage reduction. So for units such as Aglaia, it is going to be a little bit more problematic. You actually want him to take action, or you can break him as fast as possible. Then once he's going to be in the weakness broken state, then this debuff will basically go away entirely, right? Then while the enemy is in the weakness broken state, the stacks cannot be accumulated. So the name of the game for King Chat, generally speaking, is just break this guy as fast as possible, and pretty much all of these debuffs will just go away. So I would say at a first glance, his overall combat feels one of the more universal ones, especially if you want to compare it to Ligas. I think Ligas from very first Anomaly Arbitration was the most restrictive because of the play of the Ruin King, the energy regeneration. Then Agda was definitely a lot more accessible. We can see a lot more teams actually clearing within the 6 cycle limit. And therefore, I think this Sunday boss, it is going to be still quite nice, even though Super Break is definitely going to be getting a massive advantage. Yes, for the first time in a very long time, Super Break can actually finally consistently, I personally think it is going to give you a consistent 3-star to 2-star clear, given depending on the number of investments. We're not going to be using Firefly, Rebel, or Buyo. I think they can all gain the similar amount of stacks generation, because for Budo, for example, you can get rid of the mobs at the first wave, and then for Rebel, wave 1, wave 2, you can get rid of all the mobs and gain your charge. It's just that for the final wave in phase 3, Rebel is going to definitely face a little bit of a problem, because there is actually no more summons for Rebel. But for Budo and Firefly, I think it's still relatively manageable, because one Budo gets stacks and it's going to be single target, he shouldn't face that big of an issue himself, right? So that's pretty much it for the debuffs. And then lastly, jumping into the 3 different buffs we have over here. So buff number 1 is definitely clearly going to be intended for your break DPS, increase break effect, as well as every single time you reduce the toughness to 0, break damage taken increase by 50%, all the way up to 4 times, which is a 60% break damage taken increase. So it's very nice. Then the second buff is pretty much very universal. So team-wide attack increase by 40%. So pretty much anybody that's going to be scaling with attack, you're going to be attack crit DPS, DOT, they can definitely still benefit from this buff over here. For Horizon's Echo of Afar, this is pretty much a Pom Pom casting its Astral Express, slamming the target, you will gain this 20% attack, and it's pretty much almost permanent, because this effect is going to be stackable. So the more you slam on Pom Pom Strain, the more attack buff you're going to be getting. And for Pom Pom Strain itself, it is pretty much like any other ultimate. It is based on 200 max energy. So the moment your units cast your skills, you're going to be able to stack on this energy of a Pom Pom. So the more you cast that, the more you get to use this. So you can actually make this a little bit more accessible for quite a lot of DPS. And then the final buff is going to be Seize the Moment, increase allies damage by 40%, and if you use an attack, you will apply the weakness corresponding to the type to the attack target, and it removes itself when they recover from the weakness broken state. So I would say that for buff 3, it is pretty much a way to push for players who are off element against Sunday over here. Because Sunday's weakness, you can see over here, it is pretty much just going to be fire, lightning, and imaginary. So if you do not have access to weakness implant mechanics like Silver Wolf, like the Dahlia, or even like a Nexa, then you have a very big problem dealing with this mechanics, because the name of the game for Sunday is essentially to break his toughness bar. So for buff 3, it is pretty much going to be designated for users who do not have access to his right weakness, so you can get this buff, so at least you can still do toughness bar damage, especially for the final phase 3. It has a built-in toughness bar, and there are no more mobs for you to break additional toughness for yourself. So if you're just going to rely on Pom Pom, it is definitely not going to be enough. So those 3 are going to be the buffs over here for the overall Anomaly Arbitration. Alrighty, so right now we are essentially going to be going in right here. Let me just check my stuff real quick. Alright, we should be completely fine. So this is gonna be my raw run. I changed the teams a little bit because the B-rolls that you guys see from just now, I used a couple of different teams, so I switched up the order to make it a little bit fresher. We are gonna be running final on the first half, rather Night 1, then Boot Hill main DPS against Night 2, as well as Face Hill DPS against Night 3. These are actually all my first time trying. I've never tested them out before. So without further ado, we are just gonna jump in immediately. The investments and the cost for everything, I'll just show you guys towards the end of the run itself. Then we are gonna be taking a look, right? So for this first half, like I mentioned, I think this is gonna be one of the more accessible ones, more universal ones, where you don't really need to run a specific DPS as long as you can keep your team alive. For this stage particularly, because we do have ourselves the E2 Cyrene, we are just gonna be trying for the sustainers option, and we'll see how that is gonna be going right here, right? So slam this back in. Saridra is gonna be giving us a stack. We're gonna tank a little bit of damage over here, but it should be completely fine. Okay, Finon is a little bit low, which is gonna be okay. So Sunday is just gonna be pulling out my Cyrene. This is gonna give me the stacks. So once I give this to Finon, we are then going to get ourselves to 24. Instantly grants us to full energy, and hopefully my Finon can actually self-sustain himself back up, because it is gonna be an E2 Finon as well, right? So first things first, we give this to Finon. Alright, then we're gonna give this to Saridra. Cyrene is gonna go in, activate our Saridra ultimate, activate our Sunday ultimate, and then we are just gonna immediately activate our final ultimate right here. Okay, then we will go for the action value advance. Hopefully this is gonna be able to keep bro alive, but I think it should be no problem whatsoever. 1.5 down into the 1.6. Very nice. We'll go for the basic attack over here, 44 to 4. Don't think we should be facing that big of a sustain problem, because this guy actually doesn't deal too much damage. He's just gonna spawn the mobs, and then he's just gonna be done, right? So slap in over here, he summons the mobs. We are just gonna continuously cast our basic attack. I think we went for the taunt over here, it will be quite decent as well, but I don't think it's gonna be that big of a deal, because these mobs shouldn't hurt us that badly. Alright, then we are gonna be at a 6 out of 6, but we don't have the enhanced gear, so we're just gonna go for the basic. Gets us to 7 out of 6, and then this should just get us a very comfortable clear of our very first nights. So the bots are gonna die, deal a little bit more quantum damage, and then one more of the follow-up attack is gonna slam back down. It is gonna spawn in more waves for the horses, but it's gonna be fine, because generally speaking, it is gonna be a pretty straightforward fight, if I can say so myself. So the mechanic is just gonna pretty much be the exact same. We are just gonna continuously cast our basic attack over here. Alright, that's all good. She's gonna do that. We are just gonna keep our team alive. Keep in mind, the Blade of the Ruin King is definitely gonna be proving us a little bit more of a sustained problem. So hopefully you are able to keep yourself alive long enough. Because we do have yourself the Cyrene, we are gonna perpetually stay in this state, so it should be a-okay. Just gonna be going for the basic over here. Get us the transformation, and then we are gonna be getting extra turn right here. Slams in for the enhanced skill, goes back in for the duplicate. Alright. Gets us a duplicate for 1.5 million. The other ascendant one is gonna die. These bobs are gonna be popping off. We are just gonna go for the basic, and then once this horse dies, then the game is pretty much gonna be over, because all of his summons are done. It is gonna be a very straightforward clear from here, right? So that is gonna be our E2 final, E2 Cyrene, E0 Saridra, E0 Sunday, everybody with Singular Lycon getting us a clear over here. If you do not have yourself access to like E2 final, E2 Cyrene, I don't think you should be facing that big of a problem to clear in 2 cycles. Definitely consider getting yourself a sustain over here, because this is the fight that would be heavy having a little bit more of a sustain check. I just kind of wanted to limit test a little bit as to can we run this without a sustain. So you technically can, but without the vertical investments, it might prove a little bit more of a problem. So that is going to be there for our night 1. For our night 2, we're just going to jump in right now with our Boot Hill main DPS running E2 Fuke, E2 Dahlia, as well as Ling Shot right now. The unfortunate thing is because I tested all these islands when we were doing our 0 cycles, so it's not going to be as relatable as well. But we are just going to be able to see how this is going to fly. Coming back in over here, I remember from back in those days where we were running Reba against this boss, it was still kind of manageable because Reba does have the imaginary weakness. For this particular fight, we are gonna be just trying to get our toughness bar as high as possible, or rather the pocket trick shot, so we can get on our stacks over here, right? So we instantly get ourselves the 3 stacks. Very, very nice. I am just gonna delay the horse right now before the horse takes a turn, so I can attempt to essentially get rid of bro immediately, right? So we're gonna deal a little bit more of them AoEs over here. Alright, Ling, I want to try to save this break for Boot Hill first. So you can see we are gonna apply our mark onto the horse. Gets us the break from Fuke, which is going to be very, very nice, which means we are going to be getting up another mark over here. At this point, it doesn't really matter that much because we already got ourselves the 3 out of 3 stacks, so we wouldn't need to worry about it. But I just want to squeeze a little bit more value. Now that the horse is pretty much almost going to be dead, we are going to just kill the lion first because the horse is 50 action value away, so very, very far. So we're going to see if we can at least one-shot the lion so that he can just get it over and done with, right? So yes, I would say that for this particular team, if we're going to be running sustainless with the amount of cost investment we have over here, I don't think it should be any problem. We just got ourselves a Ling Shot just to bring a little bit more safety, just to be there. Bunny is gonna go in, gets us the break, and that is pretty much gonna be our first wave. Second wave is gonna be up against True Sting. Now, because we cannot instantly break him over here, we are gonna essentially get our Ling Shot ultimate first, which should then just be enough for us to get a break. Very, very nice, right? So just nice, 130 toughness bar, hit it over here, gets off the instant break. We can just instantly cast our Eagle 4 pieces as a delay. So True Sting is pretty much never gonna almost get a turn, but he is gonna transform in a little bit later. So we are just gonna save a little bit. Alright, we are just gonna save a little bit. Boot Hill is definitely gonna bring bro into phase 2, so we are just gonna let him take that. There we go. Phase 2. He's gonna summon his bugs over here, which is not gonna be that big of a problem. And the thing with Bodo is that you can pretty much just almost completely ignore all of the bugs and only aim for the main target. But that's assuming you actually implant the physical weakness, which he actually does not have. So we are just gonna come over here, go for the bunnies, deal a little bit more toughness bar damage. So this is because we do not have the physical implant. You might want to consider running Dahlia with energy regeneration rope, or save Dahlia's ultimate right before Budo's turn so they can get a physical implant, in which then he would deal a lot more toughness bar damage, right? But in any case, it's gonna be fine because we are essentially gonna go for the basic. He's gonna go for a hit a little bit over here, and then he's gonna start charging, which is fine because Fuke is definitely gonna be giving us the DDD because of our E2. Gets us the additional action value advance. Alright, see if it hits Dahlia over here. Yes, she does. So because of the RNG, we are able to essentially get our physical implant as well as fire implant, which is going to be very, very nice for Ling Shao as well. We get rid of all of the vulnerability, and then Boot Hill over here should just be dealing like an obscene amount of damage, right? Okay, let me just see this. Holy god damn, 1.7 million down to the last 16% HP, 9% remaining. I'm pretty sure once we cast this Eagle 4 piece, he's pretty much going to be done from the ultimate. Alright, and there we go. So that is going to be our Boot Hill main DPS break against our Knight 2. Like I mentioned, for Knight 2 specifically, I think this one is gonna be a little bit more difficult because of the crit damage debuff, but I think generally speaking you shouldn't also face that big of a problem because the mechanics are relatively the same. Dealing with the mobs, I think True Sting is one of those bosses that are like really manageable as long as you get rid of all of his summons. So if you're gonna be having units like your D-Herda, your units like your Nexa, or even your Remembrance Flagship, getting all those away, even though there is the crit damage debuff, you should still be able to clear this comfortably within 2 cycles for the 3-star clear, right? So that is pretty much gonna be that for Knight 2. And then finally going into Knight 3, we are just gonna try out our wife's team. The gears and everything I'll just show you guys towards the end. Yep, hopefully we can still clear, because this is pretty much the exact same team that I have on my main account. The only difference is, unfortunately, we do not have the E2 HPD, so we're just gonna see how far this is gonna be taking out over here, right? DHPD is gonna be giving us the stacks. At least this guy is way too physical, which is quite nice. We are gonna be able to get this over here a little bit. I would want to essentially get ourselves the ultimate from Bobbin once we get the energy. So guy is gonna aim us over here, but because we have the shields, the damage is not gonna be that crazy, right? So goes for the Saki. We are just gonna wait after face out goes to gain maximum value. Otherwise, I'm gonna be wasting a little bit of the stacks over here, right? So face out goes in. Right after face out goes, we are then gonna activate our Bobbin action value advance. Now, because this is gonna be already a 12 out of 12, I don't want to waste the value that we should be getting. So our first ultimate is going to be going in immediately, because phase out is going to be taking place after Cypher as well as DHPD. Now, as a phase out enjoyer, I will say that if you do have her on an Eagle 4-piece, it will be highly recommended. But I'm just going to be using like almost the default gear that the game gives me. I can't really be bothered to craft a perfect piece. So we're just going to be seeing where this is going to be going, right? So goes for our first ultimate. And then from here, we can just generate a little bit more stacks when our things are going to take a hit, right? DHPD goes for the basic. Face out is going to be going for the follow-up attack. And I think we should be able to essentially get rid of this guy without the need of using my ultimate, which would be very nice. Okay, get rid of the guy because we have the shield to rebound the damage. That's very good. I will essentially just save up my Cypher's ultimate for the next wave because I think it's a little bit redundant. So we're going to be going for the basic. Gets us our wife's ultimate right now. Okay, very manageable over here. And phase out goes for the follow-up, or rather car. We are just gonna immediately kill this guy right now so we can get into phase 2. This is definitely gonna be a kill. Gets this in, and there we go, bringing us into the next phase right now. Right, the dragon is gonna come in. I'm just gonna activate my DHPD follow-up attack right now. Then car is just gonna go for the base attack. I'm just never gonna be using this ultimate all the way until the last phase. Alright, then we're just going to continuously use our base attack over here. Gain us the follow-up attack stacks. Phase out, I would say that when he summons the mobs, it would be ideal for us to generate our patron by pivoting this into one of the chickens so that we can aim the chickens and deal the toughest bar damage over here, right? Other than that, you're wasting a little bit of value, but I would say it is not really going to be the end of the road because we should be able to still one-shot this guy using our Cypher ultimate a little bit, right? He's going to hit us pretty frequently, which is going to be fine. Bobbin is going to get hit here, but it's going to be completely okay because we do have 100% energy. So we are just going to be going for our basic attack because this will do a little bit more toughness bar damage. Now I'm going to pivot to this. So once we get ourselves the Bobbin out, okay, we are just going to action value advance immediately. Alright, so DHPD can go for the basic. Hopefully Phase Out's ultimate can actually kill this guy so that we can get the maximum value. Okay, this thing is gonna die. We are gonna wait a little bit once again because I want to generate my patron stacks, right? So first things first, we're gonna cast this. We did waste one stack of the follow-up attack, which is gonna be fine. We're just gonna let this go right now. A little bit of an overkill, but as long as we win this break, it is going to be worth it. This comes back in, pops this, and then once our DHPD dragon is gonna go, we should be getting the winner's break right here. Alright, so we get all the winner's break. That is when my face out can definitely go in, cast all of her ultimate. Unfortunately, not quite enough to get the clear, and he is gonna be recovering. Okay, so this is where I would say that the difficulty is gonna be, because in the normal Memory of Chaos, you wouldn't really mind that much whether or not he's gonna be getting hit, because every single time we hit him by 6 times, he is gonna instantly 100% action value advance, and because we broke him right before the action value advance, he actually recovered all of his toughness bar, which is really annoying. But at this point, we're just gonna brute force our way through because it is almost gonna be phase 2. So let's just get rid of this chicken over here. I think we should be getting ourselves the 6 out of 6. Then we'll see if this can just instantly get us a kill so I don't have to keep stalling for the next thing, right? 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 5. 3% remaining. 2% remaining. 1% remaining because of the physical bleed. So hopefully this is going to be enough to get us to the next phase. 1% is going to be a little bit unfortunately. Hopefully Cypher can get us the kill. Okay, very good. We actually got on without the 1%, which is absolutely insane. He's gonna summon, not gonna be able to get a 0 cycle over here. We are just gonna continuously let Bobbin do the basic. I'm not gonna cast my out judge because I want to gain maximum value from phase out as well as DHPD. So deal more toughness bar, deal more follow-up attack, Alright, you want to keep track of this, by the way. So the moment this thing reaches 5 going to 6, you do not want to break him so that you don't make the same mistake that essentially happened just now, right? So continuously deal with Howler's Bar over there. Now, once Face Out is going to be going here, we can in fact get our Bobbin action value advanced. We once again want to pivot our Cypher. So this is going to be 5 out of 5, which is not really going to be that consequential, because he is essentially going to... okay, because this guy is almost dead, I don't want to waste my ultimate on the chicken because it is very, very wasteful. So we are just going to go ahead for the ultimate right here, which unfortunately didn't really generate us enough patron stacks, which I think is going to be fine. We are going to let this hit. Whether or not it's going to be Bobbin is irrelevant, so we are just going to aim Bobbin because she's going to be a little bit low on energy, and my DHPD is going to be a full out at this particular moment, right? So this is going to come back in. We are going to cast our dragon, which should get us the kill on the other chicken. Okay, very, very good. Then we are going to try to kill this chicken right here so that we can just spam all of our concentrated efforts onto the main guy over here, right? Okay, hopefully we can get this down in this particular cycle dispatch. But if it's not going to be enough, then kind of it is what it is. So we just try our best. If it's not enough, then it's going to be a 2-cycle dispatch, right? So this is going to come in. We are just going to do everything right here. We're just going to do everything. It is not ideal because I didn't want to get rid of the chickens, which do more Talos bar. But we'll see where this goes because we do have a Cypher at almost 2 million stacks of that thingamabob over there. This is going to come in. Let's just see how Cypher is going to be doing right here. Okay. Okay, very, very nice. Okay, that was actually really good. So what I would have done just now is activate Cypher's ultimate first. Because if Cypher's ultimate actually got us the break with the chickens, I'm not sure we actually needed Phase Out's ultimate. We could have potentially saved the Phase Out's ultimate onto that previous attack, which would have definitely gotten us the one shot. So for this particular point, it doesn't really matter as much anymore. It is still going to be essentially a 2-cycle dispatch. Last 4%, we're just going to get hit a little bit. Cast off the ultimate, summons in our Face Out for one last hit. And that is going to be it for our 2-cycle dispatch. So I would say in this particular fight, even though Fei Xiao did exceptionally well last MOC, because of the mechanic of the taunting, where after 6 hits, he's going to be getting the action very advanced, which will restore his toughness bar. You want to essentially be a little bit more aware as to don't break him right before he gets 6 out of 6, so that you can keep him in the winner's broken state for as long as possible. But that is not really going to be doing too much so, because your follow-up attacks are still going to be considering as 2 hits during his winner's broken. So ideally, let go of like 2 face out ultimates when his winner's broken, and then let go of your Cypher ultimate, let go of HP, let go of everything. That is when you should be getting the highest amount of value. But in any case, it is going to be our 2-cycle. So remember I said at the start of the video that I thought Night 2 was going to be the most annoying? Yeah, I take it back. I think Night 3 is probably one of the more annoying ones, especially considering this mechanic with the boss, where if you break him and he recovers, he will just refund back in his 50% damage reduction, which is hella bad, right? So I'll let you guys try and test out for yourselves. And without further ado, I think we can right now just jump into Anomaly Arbitration King. Alright, so this was done with my previous team on my very first try, and that's going to be on full auto, E2 5 light, E2 fuel, E2 Dahlia, and E2 everything. This is going to be E0 Lingsha, 1 cycle on full auto. So for this particular fight, I'm just going to be doing something different, since we did see a boot hill showcase against the Night 2. We are finally going to wrap up with our wrap-up showcase against Sunday. I think at least we get to cover every single break DPS and see how they are going to be doing. And at the end of the run, I'll show you guys the investments for every single one of the units over here, just for your reference, right? So yep, let's go for it. So first of all, the technique is going to be the exact same. Sunday, to my knowledge, he is going to be able to have the yep, he is going to be having the imaginary winners over here, which is going to be very nice for wrap-up, at least for phase 1 as well as phase 2. But what I'm guessing is at phase 3, when there's only going to be a single target, that is going to be really annoying. So we'll see how that is going to be going later on. And because Reba's technique does not give her the energy unlike Firefly, it is going to take a while to get an ultimate. So it kind of just, it is what it is, right? We already know who is going to be the favorite DPS of all time, which is going to be Firefly. So we'll work with what we have and see how this thing is going to be going, right? So the energy is definitely going to be taking a little bit, at least in wave 1. So we'll try our very best. Alright, because we broke all of his targets, he is not going to be doing his heavy hit. which is going to be fine. Reba is unfortunately a little bit squishy. We are going to be able to get off the break over here. Ideally, I would say let go of this Pom Bomb right now, so that we instantly get off the toughness bar. And now that he's going to be Winner's Broken, we can pop this in to deal a lot more toughness bar damage. And then we're just going to charge on our Pom Bomb a little bit towards the end later on, right? So Lingsha can go for the skill here. Few goes for the basic. I'll let Dahlia go first, and then Reba is going to cast her skill. Alright, gets off the DDD, bring our Reba to 0 AV. And Reba is going to cast a skill over here. And I think with this ultimate, we should be able to bring us into phase 2, since everyone is already going to be Winner's Broken. So, bop, bop, bop. Alright, very, very nice getting us into phase 2. So, for this particular portion, we're just going to be doing a same thing. So, he's always going to hit us over here, which should be fine. Gets us the Dahlia ultimate, and then eventually when we get ourselves the Pom Pom, we are definitely going to be able to deal tremendous toughness bar damage, right? And yes, the moment you Witness break him, he is going to be getting a lot of value. So first we do that, gets this off, slams in the Pom Bomb, gets the Pom Bomb in, gets us Lingsha. So we're going to be able to get a free bunny. Very, very good. Gets us another Walking Light for the additional shield. Alright, so this shield is going to be adding as our second layer of protection, which should be very, very nice over here. Gets us the break for 5 million damage. Holy, that is very, very nice. We are just going to be going for the basic, and then once we get ourselves the skill, he is going to be Winner's Broken. Field will go for the basic attack over here. And then we are definitely going to be getting into phase 3, right? So, bop, bop, bop. Phase 3, right? Very, very good for 4 million. And this is the final phase, which I would say has the highest amount of difficulty, especially for Reba, because unfortunately, there are no more summons, which means my Reba cannot get enough charge to deal the super rate damage scaling. So it is just going to be a little bit unfortunate. We are just going to do our Lingsha's basic, and then we'll try to pivot all of our skill points into Reba first, as well as Fuke herself. Because we do have ourselves the DDD, which is quite nice. So I don't really want to waste my DDD value. So we're going to give Dahlia the skill. He's going to start charging. Reba is going to get a skill over here. Gets off the DDD as well as the follow-up attack, which is very nice. DDD pops in. Dahlia pops in, and yes, every single time we're gonna be casting our unit's turn, he's gonna count down, right? So you can see it is always gonna be 0 value. The moment one of our unit's turn is gonna take place, he's gonna immediately take place, but our ultimate actually does not count. So now it's gonna be on the 5th day, almost reaching to 7. So this is gonna break. Alright, then it's gonna be on the 6th day. Alright, and it's almost gonna be 7 very, very soon. Give us the skill onto bro. 6 out of 7. On the 7th day, about to witness, and unfortunately we are not gonna be able to get off the winner's break over here. It is what it is. So let's just take a little bit of hit right now. All right, okay, hit comes in. Boomskis, we do get off the shield, which is very, very important. So if you do not have the shield over there, you would have almost inevitably died, right? So very, very good for us. We are gonna deal a little bit more toughness bar damage with the bunnies. Alright, the bunnies goes in. Then we're gonna let go of our double Reba's EBA, because this is gonna be 3 action value. First goes in because that is gonna be considered as an extra turn, and the next turn is gonna be 3 action value away and activating our signature light cone. So we're gonna be going here again. Alright, very, very good. But because our damage is not going to be as high, since, like I mentioned, it's going to be a single target, it is definitely going to be a little bit annoying. But because we already Winner's Broke him, he is no longer going to be taken attention. So this is the part where you essentially want to go all in and do as much damage as humanly possible. I'm just going to slam in Pom Pom right now, because it is going to be free. Then we're going to continue to stack this on, and we'll just try to do as much damage as we can right here, right? As much as possible. Getting us this, getting us the basic. Reba is unfortunately going to run out of ultimate, because that's just the way the mechanic is going to be. Without the minions, unfortunately, we're just not going to be getting enough in terms of our Reba's damage amplification, right? So get his ultimate. Bunny is going to go in. So unfortunately, not quite enough for a 3-star clear using this setup. I would say if you are going to be running sustainless, I think it might be possible, because we still gain a lot of shield. So running this with HMC or even E1 Rame to improve our winner's rate efficiency, I believe that Reba can definitely still get herself at least a 3-star clear if you're going to be doing a sustainless team. But other than that, we are going to just wrap it over here. Reba goes for the steal, gets us the enhanced EBA. Okay, we don't even need it. And that is going to be 3 cycle, almost 2 cycle, getting us the Repa sustained run against Sunday himself, right? So with that, I've pretty much come into the end of my final video for this early access server featuring the Anomaly Arbitration on the Sunday setup. Finally, Super Break is no longer going to be the worst team. Definitely going to be performing very, very well. I would be quite interested to see how the other teams are going to be doing. For example, the attack scaling as well as the off-element scaling DPS. I will want to save that for the next update, which is going to be on 3.8 next week. So I'll leave you guys with this for now. You guys can feel free to theory for yourself and see what kind of teams are going to be doing well over here. So these are going to be the cores and the teams we use, right? This is going to be our team. All right, I'll just let this play in the background. So I would say that generally speaking, this Anomaly Arbitration, like I mentioned just now, it definitely favors very, very well for the Super Break DPS, especially for phase 3, where I would say if you cannot deal enough toughness bar to get the shield. Oh. Well.
The greatest Honkai Star Rail tourist that has ever lived.
It is what it is, right? It is what it is. So that could have actually been a lot better, right? That could have actually been a lot better. So maybe we could have actually gone ourselves to the 2 cycle. In any case, we're just going to kind of move on a little bit, right? But yeah, like I mentioned, that is pretty much going to be a Sunday against non-Super Break environments, especially for like your Remembrance flagship, for your E2 finals, your E0 finals, your Anexa, your Fireflies, your, not Firefly, your Acherons, or your... Okay, I didn't really use this because I didn't even use Firefly at all. But just now it's gonna be fine. There's gonna be, yeah, but like your finals and carrots and everything are definitely gonna be a lot more manageable compared to last time. So looking forward to see how things are gonna be going over there, right? So with that, we've come to the end of this feature, and I'll be seeing you guys on the update in the live server. Word of the day is gonna be final. Join Twitch, join Discord, join. Use code MrPokke for 10% off game subs. All the best for catch up. See you guys next time. Bye.